Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. First of all, can we just talk about how it's like so hot? Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's hot where you guys are, but it has been like killer down here. So I'm actually outside. We'll see how long it's shaded, thankfully. So hopefully it won't be too bad. But yeah, happy Friday. And I wanted to jump on for a final Friday Facebook Live and just kind of wrap up some things with you guys, and talk about just a few things going forward for you guys as well. So, one of the things I wanted to touch on really quick that I know I put a little bit of information in the program about, but a few of you guys had reached out specifically and asked this, so I wanted to talk about alcohol and can you drink and still lose weight? So the short answer to that question is yes. I mean, you can still, I mean, really, you can do anything and still lose weight, right? You can still eat sugar, you still eat flour. It's just how quickly you want that process to go. So with alcohol, you can still drink, hey Jess, and lose weight. But what I want you to basically do is put alcohol in the same category as sugar. So with alcohol, what's really interesting is we've got our macronutrients, which we've talked about, right? Carbs, fats, and proteins. And those are the only things that we eat that actually have energy, like in the form of calories, right? The only other thing that actually has energy that we put in our body is alcohol. So it's in between carbs and fat. So carbs and proteins have 4 calories per gram, fat has 9 calories per gram, alcohol has 7. So just in, obviously taking it in and getting that energy, you just want to keep that in mind. So it's not like just like a free thing, right? And then obviously the type of drink that you have can play a big difference too, right? Like if you look up some of these like mixed drinks, they are full of sugar, full of calories. So that in and of itself could obviously be an issue, right? But if you take that out and you have something that's just basically like even pure alcohol, like let's say like wine or something like that, what's interesting about it is, well, first of all, it obviously is going to give you that dopamine hit. So all that stuff we talked about with sugar and the dopamine hit and creating that neural pathway and that habit and all of that, same exact thing is going to happen with alcohol. And for some people, they may experience that even more with alcohol than sugar. Some people, sugar seems to be more of their thing than alcohol. So it kind of depends, but just keep that in mind. What you don't want to do is stop eating sugar and start drinking a lot more, or vice versa. Some people try to stop drinking and they'll start eating more sugar. So just know those two things often go hand in hand. The other interesting thing about alcohol is that your body has there's nowhere for it to go, right? Like there's no place where we like store alcohol or like use alcohol in any way. So what happens is your body basically sees alcohol as like an emergency situation, and it will shut down all the other stuff that's going on to kind of deal with this situation and process it and get the alcohol out. And so it obviously depends on how much you drink, but you can stop, like if you're in that fat adapted state, like you're doing really good with your diet and you're like burning fat for energy and you're kind of chugging along with that and you have a couple drinks, just understand you'll probably take your body out of that process so that it can deal with the alcohol, and it's going to start trying to burn up that alcohol for energy instead of using fat. So again, you just want to kind of figure out how you want that to look. I would definitely put alcohol more in the joy eating category than it to be like, if you're trying to lose weight, I would not do it every single day, because what's happening then is you're taking yourself out of that fat adapted state when you do it. Again, you can still drink and lose weight. It's just like with sugar. If you're really serious about it and you want to see that process going, you just want to limit it. And again, you want to make sure you're not drinking stuff that has a lot of like extra sugar and calories and things like that in it. So that's just something to think about. There are some, like with red wine, there's some evidence of a little bit of health benefits. And listen, I love wine, so this is not me like putting it down, but I know for me that's something I've really cut back on because just kind of understanding all this stuff more and using, for me, that collecting the urges around alcohol. And so realizing like, oh, it's so easy for that to become a habit, to where like every night, especially when you have kids or a stressful job, it's nice to like have something that de-stresses you, but it can easily become that habit. It can easily start to create that neural pathway, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, now I feel like I'm in that situation where it stops becoming a choice. And remember, for you guys, that's what I want more than anything. It's not about the foods or anything else being good or bad. Ultimately, what I want for you guys is to have the option of being able to choose for yourself what you want to do, and understanding that wanting something doesn't mean you have to have it. You have the strength, you have the power to decide. Like, that plate of brownies can be sitting there and I can decide I don't want that. And it's gonna feel uncomfortable, but that's okay. It's totally fine. That glass of wine can be sitting there and I can decide I don't want it, and it's gonna feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. I got this. That's the most empowering thing. And so as you guys go forward from here, you can always come back to that. As I mentioned last week, it's not gonna be a straight line, right? You're not just gonna like figure this out one day. That's what I want. I just wanna like have this mountaintop moment where like I just figure it all out and then I just don't have to worry about it anymore. And it never happens, right? Like I'll have like a really good month where I'm like on it, and then I'll kind of stumble back. Every time you stumble back, what you can do is you can ask yourself what's going on. If you can come back to it objectively and be like, wait a minute, I'm falling back in these patterns. What's happening right now? Like for me, it usually comes back to change is one of the big things. Like for me, June has been a tricky month because I was telling Jesse, like I feel like I'm like half in work mode but half in summer mode, and I'm just kind of confused. And like my kids are home all the time and I'm just kind of walking around like, what's happening? Like June is just a tricky month, and I can find myself kind of sliding back into these patterns because we've got a swim team and we're around foods we're not normally around, and it's like, okay, hold up. It's fine, and I can analyze that objectively without beating myself up, but then go back, wait a minute, I know how to handle this, I know what to do. And it comes back to that feeling of empowerment, right? It's like, what do I want this to look like? What's the most loving, compassionate place I can be in for myself, whether I'm going through change, whether I'm going through stress, whether I'm going through anything. I don't have to say, well, I don't have a choice. Well, it's just a stressful time. Well, I can't say no to that, right? I know I have been in those spots before, right? Where it's like, well, I couldn't ever go to a party where people are drinking and not have a drink, right? But when you realize, yes, you can, and it becomes this choice, that's when you take back the power for yourself, right? And again, then you decide it's not about being perfect. It's not about never having sugar again or whatever, but just understand you can make that choice for yourself. That's really what it comes back to. All right. So as you guys go forward, I want to just keep emphasizing it comes back down to these two really basic things. It comes back to, if you can manage your hunger, and you do that from the physiological side of eating the foods that help get the hormones rebalanced out, you'll start to notice that your hunger levels get much, much more manageable, right? So that's the one side. And then the other side is handling the desire, right? It's when these things that come up, which again, I call these urges, wanting something we don't really want, right? Wanting something in the short term that gives us a dopamine hit that we know long term isn't really serving us, right? We can handle that. You let that urge come up, you pay attention to it, you hug it, you don't try to push it away, you don't try to willpower it, you don't try to make yourself feel bad because, oh, I shouldn't be wanting that. You just go, okay, I'm just wanting something I don't really want. The worst that's gonna happen is an uncomfortable feeling. I can handle that. And just being compassionate with yourself through that. If you can manage those two things, you got this. All right, it's gonna be a process. You're gonna have some really good weeks, both from the physiological standpoint of stepping on the scale and seeing the weight down, and you're gonna have some weeks when you're like, I'm doing everything right and it's not budging. Don't abandon yourself in those moments, right? When you're doing everything and you step on that scale and it's not where you want it to be, do not abandon yourself. Be really careful how you start to think, because if you start to think, oh, this is too hard, it's not working, and you give up on yourself, as I mentioned before, you're for sure gonna fail, right? If you stop doing the day-to-day stuff, you're for sure gonna fail. If you keep pushing through, it's gonna work, it's gonna happen, I promise, right? Anything that's worth anything is tough, right? It's tough. Like, I was telling this to somebody the other day, like I have a student that was like trying to drop out of my course, and I was like, listen, anything that's worth anything is hard, right? That's why it's like if somebody comes to you and they're like, I have a degree from Harvard, why is that impressive? Because you know what it took to get that wasn't easy, right? So it's the same thing with this. The way we're doing this is sustainable. The way we're doing this is when that weight comes off, that's real weight loss, right? It's not a quick fix. We're dealing with the underlying issues. If we just go on a diet plan and we're not dealing with the underlying stuff, that weight's gonna come right back, right? And a lot of you guys have told me those stories. I've lost all this weight in the past, but it's come back. And so when we're taking the time to really dig deep, when we're taking the time to really kind of figure out what we're doing and why we're doing it and why we want these things without judging ourselves, from a place of like really loving ourselves exactly where we are, but also loving ourselves enough to want to do better and be better for ourselves, that's when it really starts to change. So that's what I want you guys to keep in mind as you go forward. And again, just keep in mind that it isn't going to be a straight line. Like, that's not the point of this. Like, this is a journey. Life is going to keep bringing up to you. This is so interesting. It's like, just when you think you got it, it's like life is like, all right, got it. Now time for the next challenge, right? Let's bring up the next thing. It's like, oh, but that's it. That's part of it. That's part of just growing, I think, as a human being. And so, you know, all this stuff is connected. Whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to do better with money, whether you're trying to grow a business, whatever it is, it's not, it's supposed to be easy. Like, you don't just get to a point, and that's what I used to think, like, I'm just going to get this all worked out and then I'm just going to be happy all the time. And I'm starting to realize more and more that's not the point. That's not why we're here. That's not, you know, we're here to figure this out, to become more loving for ourselves so we can become more loving to others, to become more compassionate to ourselves so we can become more compassionate to others. So there is that spiritual element. Whatever that looks like for you, that's part of it. That's part of this journey. So just keep going, guys. Just keep going. You guys got this. Y'all are amazing. I mean, some of the stuff I've been hearing from y'all, and it's not even always about the scale. It's just some of you guys, just even the way you're thinking, the way you're talking about yourself, the way you're talking about food is amazing. And that's as exciting to me as like tons of weight loss. So I hope it is for you guys as well. Okay, so where to go from here? I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna take a few weeks to just to go in and tweak some stuff with the program. I have some ideas of just some ways I want to make it just a little bit better. So I'm actually going to hold off on relaunching it. But I am still doing private coaching. So if you feel like you need a little bit more of like accountability and a little bit more of tweaking the program to your specific situation, definitely consider private coaching. I've got several clients doing that now, and wow, that bug just got really loud. I've got several clients doing that now, and that's going really good. So if you feel like that's something that you would benefit from, consider that. Remember that you guys can also do like a free mini session. So if you haven't done that yet, or even if you haven't, you just want to do a quick check-in, go into the link. I think I know, it's so loud. Go into the link that I sent y'all an email yesterday with the link, so you can go in there and seriously, I'd love to talk to you guys. So just, you can see when I've got some spots available, and we can hop on and just kind of see where you're at and what's going on with you, and maybe any little tweaks we can make for you going forward. I'm kind of debating doing some sort of like monthly thing. So I'm still kind of getting my head around what that would look like. So you guys will all be on my mailing list, so I'll keep you updated with all that kind of stuff. And anything I offer in the future. But for now, just getting through the summer, I'm going to keep just kind of working on tweaking this program. So, you know, if you know of anybody that can use this, if you know of anybody that needs this kind of like the mental side of it, please share. For sure, I'll be sending out more information. Donna, I highly recommend the private sessions. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I just think for a lot of people, the information is great, but actually having a coach and having somebody you're checking in with each week, I think that can make a big difference. So if you feel like you need that next level, that's for sure something you can consider. So I'm going to try to check in with everybody individually, whether it's through email or Facebook. So just be on the lookout for some sort of message from me in one way or the other, just to check in and just see how you're doing and make sure that nobody has any kind of final questions as we wrap things up. But you guys are amazing. I have had so much fun over the last 6 weeks. Have loved getting to know so many of you better. And please just keep me posted on your progress. Please check in with me. Please send me any questions that you have. Think of me as your coach going forward, okay? I'm here for you guys if you need me. So have a wonderful weekend. I will talk to you guys soon. All right, bye.